98% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move.
Say, what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to Life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. You're down! For those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing on that intro song right there. And if you want to get that song, you can purchase it on a 10-song EP that you get directly from me on a digital download link. If you're interested, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle me $20. I'm going to get it to you ASAP. If you want to check out more of my music, go to my YouTube playlist, scroll down to gas stations, or type in 16 to Life gas stations, and you can hear much more of my music there. Now let's hop right up into this video, man. So today I'm going to be reacting to a video on a channel called Connect with Johnny Mitchell. And the name of this video is Peckerwood opens up about doing a life sentence under the California 3 strikes law. So y'all definitely be sure to go tune in to his channel, like, subscribe, check it out. He got some great interviews on there, and let's get into it.
Tell us about that first stretch. Where did you go?
I went to Sentinella, level 3.
Mm-hmm.
I was there for, I don't know, 3 to 6 months.
Uh-huh.
And I was fighting a lot.
Yeah.
I almost started a riot my first day on the yard with the Mexicans,
How did that come about?
Well, I was on the phone, and these Mexican kids come up to me and say, "Hey, it's my phone time." I'm like, no, it's not. Like, in my mind, no, it's not. Like, I'm just a white kid. I got no tattoos. They're just looking at me like, whatever. Like, they're going to just get over on me. And I'm like, no, it's not. They're like, yeah, it is, Wood, like this and that. And I go, okay, well, I'm going to go look at the list. I've come back here. You don't get off the phone. We're going to have a problem. I don't really know the rules at this time.
Right.
I'm just, like, fresh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. All I know is that if somebody's disrespecting me, I should just take off on them at that time.
Right.
I'm not realizing the consequences,
Mm-hmm.
So I go, my name's on the list. I come back there, he don't get off the phone. He's on with his family. I just take off on him.
Yeah.
So...
And so that reminds me of a similar situation when I was in Ironwood. So how it works is the COs will come around with the phone sign up list, and you sign up today, like Thursday, for a phone call on Friday. So they may start at sale 2 today, then they'll start 13 sales away the next day. So then they'll start at 15, and that gives everybody a fair opportunity to get these most wanted phone time slots. Like, the majority of the people want to be able to call after 5 o'clock when their family is home and not at work. And so and then they post the phone list up, and then you look at the list. Okay, I'm on phone 2 at 3:30 or whatever. So my homeboy happened to be on the phone. My homie, black dude, of course, he was from Belize, and so his last name was a you can say like a Hispanic surname. So now these other dudes, these Southsiders, trying to get on the phone when it wasn't their time, they're checking the list. Okay, who has a phone call? Okay, they look on phone 4. Oh, it's a black dude on phone 4. But the phone sign up list has the name of Alvarez, which unbeknownst to them was his name. So then they go push up on him, say, hey homie, it's my phone time at 3:15 or whatever. We get the phone calls are in 15-minute increments, and he's like, no man, it's not your phone time. He was like, yeah, it's my phone time. And he told him, no man, my last name is Alvarez. So he nipped in the bud the trickery that they was trying to run. So sometimes stuff like that happens. So they assumed that since it was a black dude on the phone, his last name couldn't have been Alvarez. So yeah, this type of stuff goes down all the time.
Yeah.
So they put the yard down, take his program office, and then when I come back, my celly's packing his stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, dude, we're going to get in a riot because of this.
Now, what the Southsider did was definitely disrespectful. Like I said, once again, by deception, he had this dude get off the phone. Or maybe it wasn't by deception. You know, maybe it was an honest mistake, right? But when this guy went and looked at the phone call list to make sure that he was on the right phone, you know, he came back. He may be upset, feeling like, okay, damn, man, you just had me hang up the phone. I'm on the phone with my family. And also, the phone calls are in 15-minute increments. So if you happen to if you have a phone call at 3:15 and you hop on at 3:20, that's your fault. You know, you wasted 5 minutes. So when it's 3:30, the next person is going to come and want his full 15 minutes. And so you don't, you know, some people would say, hey man, well, you know, because the phone will say you have 60 seconds left. But that's, of course, if you get on the phone at the right time. You can't, just because you missed your phone time or the yard was down or whatever, you can't run into somebody else's time. So sometimes the phones definitely can be a problematic situation.
He goes, I'm not saying you're wrong, but there's going to be a riot because of this.
Oh my God.
It turned into a big old thing. And luckily, I used to run around with these Mexicans in Anaheim, and one of them was there. And he spoke up for me.
Yeah.
And said, like, hey, this guy used to run around with us a little bit, whatever, like, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It all blew over.
Right.
But it was, for a while there, it was kind of like, it almost started, you know, a riot.
Yeah.
And then the shot caller for the yard, the white guy at the time, too, was so strung out on heroin. So he was kind of like a sympathizer for these dudes.
Yeah.
So, you know, luckily, I knew a guy, a Mexican dude, that kind of whatever.
So who were you running with? Nobody had taken you under their wing? Like,
well, I was from CWB. I was from Crazy White Boys. But, you know, the whites run with the whites.
Yeah.
And you're all doing what the Aryan Brotherhood tells you to do.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're where is the Aryan Brotherhood giving orders from? Pelican Bay?
From the shoe. From
the shoe.
The Corcoran shoe in Pelican Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was on a level 3, which is really like level 1s are really just, they're nothing. Level 2s are really nothing. Mm-hmm. Level 3s, okay, but they're, you know, not people are not getting killed all the time.
Yeah.
It's not as serious as it is when you go to level 4. Once you go to level 4 yard in California, that's where everything's like really like serious.
When was the first level 4 you went to?
I went to Corcoran.
Yeah.
So that last, you know, after that, some other stuff happened, and I ended up going to Corcoran.
Okay, so now you've with the big ones.
Now I'm on level 4.
Yeah, now it's extremely serious.
25 years old. You know, first, you know, haven't even been in prison a year yet.
Wow. And there's no...
Now, Corcoran, I was there as well. Corcoran is a prison that sits by Bakersfield, right? And which is somewhat on the dividing line of when you have, you know, Southerners from the South past Corcoran. Well, now it's different, but past Corcoran, it used to be where the Northerners would start. And to me, not in all occasions, right, but to me, in some situations, it did seem or appear to me as you had guards up there who didn't necessarily like the Southerners. You know, they somewhat kind of favored the Northerners, and that may have been due to, you know, them being from certain areas. But I did see that a few times where, you know, the guards seemed like they had personal issues with the Southerners.
Fighting on level 4s.
Well, it just depends where you're at. You know, people will sit there. They see dudes on TikTok talking about all this crazy stuff, but it just really depends on what yard you're on.
What was Corcoran like?
Corcoran was different. Like when I got off the bus there, we're walking back with our stuff to the building, and you know, this Northerner guy's getting stabbed. You know, bad. That was my first memory of level 4.
Watching that as you walk into the prison.
And then they put the yard down, and you know, we finally get back to our cells after they search everybody. You know, we go on lockdown for a little bit. They let everybody off, but the Northerners, you know, they stay on for another week or whatever till they investigate. And then
imagine that being your first introduction to level 4 prison.
Yeah,
somebody getting stabbed. Was it Mexican on Mexican?
Well,
Sereno on Norteño?
The Northerners, yeah. Northerners are stabbing one of their own.
Oh, and that's what I was going to interject and say. It had to be a Northerner on Northerner issue, because once they locked everybody down, then they kept the Northerners locked down. So that meant that it was an incident among themselves. That's how California will do it, right? Who's ever involved in the situation, the majority of the time, will stay on lockdown the longest. Now, had it been the Northerners and another group, they would have stayed on lockdown. Then everybody else will eventually came off lockdown once they felt their investigation was complete.
Yeah. Okay. For whatever reason, I don't know. But and then I was on orientation for a couple weeks, and then I got a celly, and then as soon as I get the celly, some guys come out of the hole with a kite, and then ended up being my celly. Something happened with him on another yard. He's got to go. So they're like, hey.
So how does that work?
That's my celly. I got to deal with it,
So you get a kite from...
I didn't get the kite. The kite came from the hole. Some guy came out of the hole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then my homeboys come and tell me, hey, this is what's going on and whatever. So I had to deal with it.
So what did your celly...
And that's the cold situation I think about being in prison sometimes, when you function as, a Northerner, a Southerner, a white, now that doesn't pertain to the blacks, and here's why. Because 9 times out of 10, if that dude had been a black, whatever car he was from, they would have handled it. Sometimes, like, you may have Crips in the cell who are from different cities, locations, neighborhoods on the street. So if that had been 2 Crips, for instance, right, but they happen to be from different neighborhoods, then it's gonna come down to the respective neighborhood. Like, say if you got a dude in the cell from IE and Compton, right, and the kite comes back that the dude from IE has done something, then the IE's on the yard is gonna get that dude, not his celly.
The man had to go.
I just beat the hell out of him.
But what did he do though?
I don't really know exactly. Like, I don't know. But something happened on another yard. It's probably a drug debt or whatever.
So did they tell you what you had to do, or he just, like, when a kite comes from out of the hole, when orders come down from up top and they say, okay, you got to get rid of your celly, do they tell you got to kill him or just beat him up, or do they just say he's got to get off?
Back then, at that time, this yard obviously wasn't that serious. Otherwise, we would have dealt with it in a different way. Killing became a sport later on in prison. Like, it just all depends on what yard you're on. They're just like, hey, he's got to get rid of him, to beat the hell out of him. I got a shoe out of it because he bled, and there was, he got so I got a shoe out of that, went to the shoe, came back out, and they put me on A yard at Corcoran. But it just depends on what yard you're on.
Right.
It just depends, dude. Like, what happens? Like, like later on in the prisons that I went to, they were a little bit different. Like the 180 yards, where it was like a sport. Like, you had to get caught, you had to kill the guy, and then one guy would tackle him, stab him in the legs, and the other guys would just stab him, And we were cutting knives out of lockers, that were, you get those little black paper clips, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. That hold paper together. Yeah. You break those in half. You could cut metal. So, you're cutting the lockers out, the biggest knife,
Yeah. And
I've seen some brutal murders, dude. Wow. Like, this one kid, I remember one time, this I'll never forget. And this was later on in doing time where I was older and I was just like, but anyways, this kid got busted for killing a couple of his friends in a drunk driving accident or something like that. He ends up on the yard, just a kid, on a 180 yard, mind you, which they don't do that no more. They stopped sending kids to those yards.
And I had seen something like that. Maybe, I don't know exactly when it was, when I was still incarcerated. Maybe, I don't know the year, 2014, 2015. But the thinking was this, to send a young dude who's impressionable, first time in prison, young guy, to these level 4 yards. Of course, he's going to think that he has to fit in. He's going to more than likely get bad advice, right, in terms of being a better convict. Then he gets caught up in a situation and, now he's in jail for a long time or possibly life, right? It doesn't, it's not conducive to their chance of coming home. So now when you go to prison, with a whole lot of time, you are eligible in some cases to go to a level 2. That way you don't necessarily get this quote unquote violent convict training and get yourself in a situation.
They were just, whatever. They just stopped doing it. And this kid was caught getting coffee from a black guy. like, you know, getting coffee from on orientation.
Yeah.
And none of the white porters seen it.
So what he's talking about is he's not getting hot coffee. Just dude probably gave him some coffee out of the Folgers jar. You know, when you're in orientation, that's when you first get to the to whatever prison that you're going to. You don't have your property. You might be in there anywhere from a week to a month. It all depends, you know. So you don't have your property, you don't have your shoes, you know, just small little comforts that make prison a little better. So he probably was next door to some black guy. They're talking, you know, through the vent or whatever. The black guy says, hey man, you know, you want some coffee? Because, you know, we function as blacks. We don't have rules on us who we can and can't deal with, you know. Even though we are in gangs, even though we are in collectives or whatever, you know, you still pretty much in certain issues, you get to function on man time. You get to be your own man. Now, of course, there's certain things that you can't do, but you know, I've never been in a prison where the blacks wasn't allowed to give anything to anyone they chose. You may have some people looking at you funny, but you're not gonna get in trouble behind it, and you're definitely not gonna lose your life behind it.
So he's on the yard. There's only like 15 of us on the yard, you know. There's not many whites on those high levels like that, you know, on those yards anyways. And they're out there, hey, we're going to get him when he comes off. You know, they're going to stab the dude, you know.
Over a bag of coffee.
Well, because he got it from a black guy.
And so explain that. You can't do any kind of trading with a different race?
Not blacks or northerners at that time.
Why?
Because the blacks run with the northerners.
And that's the enemy?
And it's just one of the racist, stupid freaking rules is what it comes down to. So, you know, and I'm arguing with the shot caller, like, dude, the kid, he's a kid, man. Just give him a chance. Well, you know, before you end up on a yard, you end up in a reception center where usually somebody will tell you, don't do this, don't do that, whatever. You know, that's what they were, you know, arguing. Well, he was told, you know, before, you know. I'm like, he's just a kid, man. Just give him a chance. Let's work with him, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, you know, whatever. So, you know, this takes a couple weeks to get off orientation, and the kid comes out to yard, and, you know, there's like 4 or 5 guys walking with him, all laughing with him, and then a guy cold trailing him. Obviously, you know, the dude's got a knife. You know, I can already see what's going to happen. So I'm looking at the shot caller, like, hey, you know, what, dude? And I start walking over there, and then now the shot caller's like yelling at me, like, hey, come here, you know, hey, you know, and now everybody's looking, you know. I turn back, I'm like, dude, what the man? And by the time I turned around, the guy already had the kid, you know, stabbing him, you know, the kid screaming. And you could see the knife so big, you could see it coming out of his jacket, like out the other side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's screaming for...
Now, what the dude is explaining, right, is at some point in time, you know, doing time, he matured, you know, he's feeling humane. He sees this youngster who doesn't know, you know, basically he's about to lose his life, and he goes over there and he tries to intervene, but he doesn't get there in time. Just that simple act could have actually caused him to be harmed and potentially lose his life as well. So he was extremely lucky in that aspect where you know, they didn't want to do something to him as well.
The kid, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude. And they put the yard down. The kid was already dead, but
we got that reggaeton. Today we're gonna be making beats you guys send me, okay? So let's go.
You know, the biggest thing that bothers me about that, and it happens all the time, is that those same guys that orchestrated all that are, you know, getting heroin or coke or whatever from these black guys on the down low.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's hypocritical, bro.
Of course, dude.
You know, and I remember just sitting there in the snow, man, and I'm just looking at these guys, and they're like laughing, and I'm just like...
So this happened when it was snowing?
Yeah.
Is this at high desert prison now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's crazy, you know, because you have a lot of different organizations who are not supposed to, quote unquote, do business with blacks. And I've seen it all the time, man. I've seen it all the time where they do, you know. In Ironwood, I myself used to sell weed, and I used to sell weed all the time to Southerners, you know. I remember one of them telling me, hey, man, you know, of course, you know, I can't drop this bag off because so I would sell the weed to them. I would give them a store list. Then they would go to the store and get my items, you know. So he says, of course, you know, I can't drop the bag off. My homies is looking right now. Either I'll have one of my homies drop it off, or maybe sometime, you know, they would give it to a Asian to come drop it off. So, you know, regardless of, you know, because when I first started doing YouTube and I would speak on things like this, people in the comments would say, well, you know, I thought that can't be true because they're not supposed to do, business with blacks. Well, yeah, people aren't supposed to kill each other either. I mean, people do a lot of things they're not supposed to do in and out of prison. And of course, people doing things they're not supposed to do is how they wind up in prison. But I had homies who sold more of the harsher, narcotics in prison. And a lot of times, they was definitely doing business with whites, doing business with Southsiders. So it just goes like that. At the end of the day, you have some people in prison who want to get high, and they're gonna get that drug wherever they can get it from.
This was years. It was just like it's just, yeah.
Did what happened? What became of that? Did they get the guy?
Oh yeah,
did they ship the guys out?
Well, they sent him to the hole. They got busted for murder.
Yeah. And
then the guy that cut the locker, he gets busted too because they search all the cells. They're going to see it just trickles down.
So do those guys get another life sentence if you kill somebody and get caught for murder when you're already doing life?
Yeah, but they're probably like doing life without, or just doing life thinking they're never getting out, or just whatever.
Yeah.
Or they're just straight killers. Just doesn't, or they're just that. They're just really about it.
So, but before any of this happens, you finally put in work. You beat up your cellie really bad. You get sent to your first AR. They call it.
But this was years later. Like I'm talking.
I know. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
This happened a lot. Like I was 40 something. I don't know, 42, 43. But before that, I went through a bunch of different prisons. I went to Salinas Valley or whatever. But like a lot of people. What I've learned, me and my buddy talk about this a lot because he did a life sentence too. But, like a lot of these guys do whatever to go back to the shoe and just hang out and just stay back there. Right. So they can hang out because it's really it's being back in the shoe. You're in Pelican Bay, you're single celled.
Right.
So you're away from all the bull. Right. You don't have to deal with it. They'd rather stab somebody or kill their cellies so they could be single cell and then stay back there.
Right.
So they don't have to deal with it. Right. Where other dudes will try to get away with it. Right. You know what I mean? They'll try to get away with their stabbings or whatever so they could beat them or whatever.
Yeah.
That
shows you just how rough some of these places are and just like how maddening, being in those conditions is. Like people would rather be isolated in the SHU, the special housing unit, because you could just get some privacy.
Oh, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'd be happy when we went on lockdown. A lot of times, I'm good. You're just in there with your cellie, just kick back, work out, watch TV. Yeah. But these guys would do that to get back there, to be around certain people so they could be recognized, so they could do whatever, or just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's...
Now, I like this dude's honesty, right? He's coming on here telling it how it is, Prison is a chaotic and hectic place at times, man. And sometimes, a person needs or he wants that type of tranquility and peace of mind. It's always something going on in prison. And so when you happen to be locked down, not only are you just in the cell, you're chilling, you're watching TV, you're away from all the madness that's going on, because in prison, every day potentially something is likely to happen, and you really can never get a real sense of peace when you're out there on the yard. You're looking around. I noticed that I developed. Well, I think I developed that before I went to prison, just due to me hanging on the corner selling drugs. But you really use that in prison. You always looking around. You don't never necessarily have a chance to rest. And so when you're on lockdown and nothing's going on, there's no movement, it is a sense of calmness at times. And so I just like this dude's honesty.
Dudes get made, a lot of them.
When you were at Corcoran, when you went to the high level yard at Corcoran after you got out of the hole for the first time, did you have new respect for putting in that work?
Well, to me, this is the way I looked at it. I always looked at it like this. I think people think, oh, I'm so tough. I stabbed this dude 50 times and he didn't even know what was going to happen. To me, that's not tough. Like the old days or whatever, it was different. Like, I think that to go up with somebody with a knife and just start stabbing them and think that's tough or think that's whatever. I think it's cowardly. The more I look at it now as I'm older, I mean, it'd be tough if you went up there and gave him a knife and you had a knife and said, okay, yeah, let's do this.
And so once again, the name of this whole entire interview on Connect with Johnny Mitchell is called Peckerwood Gang Member Opens Up About Serving a Life Sentence Under the California 3 Strikes Law. So you guys go tune in, man, to Connect with Johnny Mitchell. Check it out. Subscribe to the channel. He's got some good interviews going on there, man. You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.